You know Angelina Jolie as an actress, a humanitarian, a global icon. But what you don't know is what she did on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in a fashion atelier most people will never hear about. She didn't just change someone's career, she changed their entire world. This is that story. Downtown Los Angeles, tucked between a coffee shop and a vintage bookstore, there was a small fashion studio that most people walked past without a second glance. The windows were frosted, the sign was modest, and inside a team of seamstresses worked quietly, creating custom pieces for private clients. The studio belonged to a well-known designer named Elena Marchesi, a woman who had dressed celebrities for red carpets, award shows, and magazine covers. Her work was impeccable, her reputation was solid, but what made Elena different from other designers in the city wasn't just her talent, it was who she hired. Elena had a quiet policy. She sought out women who had been overlooked by the mainstream fashion industry, women who had skills but no opportunities, women who had stories no one wanted to hear, and one of those women was Amira Hassan. Amira was 29 years old. She had come to the United States 3 years earlier as a refugee from Syria. Back in Damascus, she had been studying fashion design at the university. She had dreams of opening her own boutique one day, of showcasing Syrian embroidery techniques to the world, of blending her heritage with modern design. But then the war came. Her city was destroyed, her university was bombed, her family scattered across borders, and Amira found herself in a refugee camp in Jordan, sewing clothes by hand just to survive. When she finally made it to Los Angeles through a resettlement program, she thought her dreams might have a chance again, but reality hit hard. Her credentials weren't recognized, her English was limited, and the fashion industry, the one she had trained for, the one she loved, felt completely out of reach. So she took the only job she could find, working in Elena's atelier as an assistant seamstress. Minimum wage, no benefits, no recognition, but Amira didn't complain. She showed up every day, worked with precision, and poured her heart into every stitch. She didn't talk much. She kept her head down, and she told herself that this was enough. That simply being able to work with fabric again was a gift. She had no idea that everything was about to change. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The studio was busy preparing pieces for an upcoming charity gala. Elena was finalizing a gown for a high-profile client, and the team was working double time to meet the deadline. Around 3 p.m., the front door opened, and Angelina Jolie walked in. She wasn't there by accident. She had heard about Elena's work through a friend and wanted to commission a custom gown for an upcoming humanitarian event. She had called ahead, but Elena had asked her to come by in person to discuss the design. Angelina entered quietly, wearing sunglasses and a simple coat. She didn't want to cause a scene. She never did. Elena greeted her warmly and led her to a private consultation room. They talked about fabrics, cuts, and color palettes. Angelina was specific about what she wanted, something elegant but understated, something that reflected the seriousness of the cause she was representing. After about 20 minutes, Elena excused herself to grab some fabric samples from the main workspace, and that's when Angelina noticed her. Through the open door, she could see into the larger studio. Several women were working at sewing machines, cutting patterns and hand-stitching details. But one woman stood out. She was seated at a corner table, working on a delicate piece of embroidery. Her fingers moved with incredible speed and precision. The pattern she was creating was intricate, geometric shapes interwoven with floral motifs, done entirely by hand. It was beautiful. Angelina stood up and walked toward the doorway, watching quietly. She had seen a lot of fashion in her life. Haute couture, designer runways, custom pieces made by the best in the world. But there was something different about this. This wasn't just skill, this was artistry. Elena returned with the fabric samples and noticed Angelina's gaze. "That's Amira," Elena said softly. "She's one of the most talented people I've ever worked with." Angelina didn't look away. "What is she working on?" "It's a traditional Syrian embroidery technique," Elena explained. "She does it for some of our custom pieces. It takes hours. Most people don't even notice it, but she insists on doing it anyway." Angelina was silent for a moment, then she asked, "Can I meet her?" Elena hesitated. Amira was shy, she didn't speak much English, and she certainly wasn't used to meeting someone like Angelina Jolie. But Elena nodded. "Of course." Elena walked over to Amira's table and said something quietly in her ear. Amira looked up, confused. When she saw Angelina standing nearby, her eyes widened. She stood up quickly, nervously smoothing her apron. Angelina smiled gently and extended her hand. "Hi, I'm Angelina. I just wanted to say, your work is absolutely stunning." Amira shook her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you. I am happy you like it. Angelina gestured to the embroidery. How long have you been doing this? Amira glanced at Elena as if asking for permission to speak. Elena nodded encouragingly. I learn when I am young, Amira said slowly. In Syria. My grandmother, she teach me. It is old tradition. Very old. Angelina leaned closer to examine the stitching. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Amira's face flushed with pride, but she quickly looked down. Thank you, but it is just sewing. It's not just sewing, Angelina said firmly. It's art. There was a pause. Amira didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to being seen. She wasn't used to being valued. Angelina asked, do you design your own pieces? Amira hesitated, then she nodded slowly. Yes, sometimes. I have sketchbook, but I do not show many people. Can I see it? Angelina asked. Amira looked at Elena again. Elena smiled. Go ahead. It's okay. Amira walked over to her bag and pulled out a worn leather notebook. She handed it to Angelina with trembling hands. Angelina opened it carefully. Inside were dozens of sketches, dresses, jackets, scarves. Each one featured intricate embroidery patterns inspired by Syrian heritage, but reimagined with modern silhouettes. The designs were bold, elegant, and deeply personal. Angelina flipped through page after page, her expression serious. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she looked up at Amira. Have you ever thought about starting your own line? Amira laughed, a soft, sad laugh. I have no money, no connections. I am just refugee. No one will listen to me. Angelina's expression didn't change. She closed the sketchbook and handed it back to Amira. I'm listening, she said. What happened next unfolded quietly over the course of several weeks. Angelina left the studio that day without saying much more. She thanked Elena, finalized the details of her gown, and left. But she didn't forget. 2 days later, Elena received a phone call from Angelina's assistant. Angelina wanted to set up a meeting, not about her gown, but about Amira. Elena was stunned, but she called Amira and told her what was happening. Amira didn't believe it. She thought it was a misunderstanding. She thought maybe she had done something wrong. But the meeting happened. Angelina invited Amira to a quiet cafe in West Hollywood. She came alone. No assistants. No entourage. Just her. They sat across from each other, and Angelina got straight to the point. I've been thinking about your designs, she said, and I want to help you launch your own brand. Amira stared at her, unable to speak. Angelina continued, I work with a foundation that supports refugee entrepreneurs. We provide seed funding, mentorship, and connections to help people start businesses. I think you'd be a perfect fit. Amira's eyes filled with tears. I do not understand why you do this for me. Angelina leaned forward. Because you have a gift, and the world deserves to see it. But more than that, you deserve to see it yourself. She paused. I've spent years working with refugees around the world. I've met so many people with incredible talents who never get the chance to use them. Not because they're not good enough, but because no one gave them a platform. I can't give everyone a platform, Angelina said. But I can give you one, if you're willing to take it. Amira covered her face with her hands. She was shaking. I do not know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, Angelina said gently, and Amira did. Over the next 6 months, Angelina's foundation worked closely with Amira to turn her vision into reality. They helped her refine her designs. They connected her with fabric suppliers who specialized in sustainable materials. They introduced her to marketing professionals who understood how to tell her story authentically. But most importantly, they believed in her. Amira named her brand Threads of Home. Every piece was handmade, featuring traditional Syrian embroidery techniques blended with contemporary fashion, and every item came with a card explaining the story behind the design, the heritage it honored, the hands that created it. The brand launched quietly at first, a small pop-up shop in Los Angeles, a handful of pieces sold online. But word spread, fashion bloggers wrote about it, celebrities started wearing her designs, and major outlets began reaching out for interviews. Within a year, Threads of Home had expanded. Amira hired other refugee women, seamstresses, designers, and artisans who had been overlooked by the industry just like she had been. It became more than a brand, it became a movement. Today, Threads of Home operates in 3 countries. It employs over 40 women, most of whom are refugees or immigrants, and it has been featured in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Elle. But Amira never forgot where it started. In an interview 2 years after the brand's launch, Amira was asked about that day in the atelier, the day Angelina Jolie walked in. She smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. I was invisible, she said. For so long, I feel like no one see me. I am just refugee, just worker, just Nobody. She paused. But she saw me. Not because I ask, not because I beg, just because she pay attention. The interviewer asked, "What did she teach you?" Amira thought for a moment. "She teach me that your past does not decide your future, that your story is not over, and that sometimes all you need is one person to believe in you." She wiped her eyes. "I will never forget what she did, and I will spend rest of my life making sure other women get same chance." Angelina Jolie never spoke publicly about what she did for Amira. She didn't post about it on social media. She didn't give interviews about it, because for her, it wasn't about recognition. It was about doing what was right. But the impact of that one afternoon, that one conversation in a small fashion studio, rippled far beyond what anyone could have imagined. It changed one life, and through that life, it changed dozens more. Because that's what happens when someone refuses to look away, when someone chooses to see the invisible, when someone uses their platform not for applause, but for action. That's the story you didn't know. The one that happened quietly, in a place most people will never visit, between two women who should never have met, but they did, and the world is better for it. What act of kindness have you witnessed that changed someone's life? Share your story in the comments below, and let us know where you're watching from. Subscribe to Celebrity Stories for more untold moments of humanity from the people you thought you knew.